What's going on? My name is Matt Parker and today it is my absolute pleasure to be checking out this gorgeous 1973 Fender Jazz Bass from my friends at Vintage Bass Room. And before we get on with the video, please remember to like and subscribe as it really helps me grow the YouTube channel. Right, let's get back to this bass. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have immediately noticed that this is actually a fretless bass. Now, Fender did not offer a fretless jazz bass until the late 80s when Fender Japan started doing the JB62 FLs, which were a fretless recreation of a 1962 spec jazz bass. What that means is that this particular example has been modified. Now, it was quite a popular and common mod during the 70s and 80s to remove the factory fretboard and replace it with stuff such as ebony, which this one is, and then rebind the neck and then put the dot markers on like the 3rd, 5th and 7th frets and so forth, which would then kind of help your intonation. As such, this is kind of like a period correct mod for this bass. A lot of players were looking for that fretless thing. And in the UK in particular, me and some of my friends have spoken about this privately. It does seem like there was one person in particular who seemed to be doing this modification kind of for a lot of basses. A lot of them look really similar, which leads me to believe there's probably a luthier somewhere in the country that was doing this to a lot of basses at the time. So we can see that this particular example now sports an ebony fretless fingerboard. It plays great, sounds great with a really nice low action. Moving to the back of the neck, we can see it's a one-piece maple neck, which leads me to believe that originally it would have had a rosewood fingerboard because typically the maple board ones have a skunk stripe on the back. And then we can see it's got some really nice flaming. Because it's a 73, it also features a 4-bolt on neck joint rather than the later 3-bolt. And because it's got that 4-bolt neck joint, we can also see it's got heel truss rod adjustment rather than the later bullet truss rods, which we come to kind of know and some people do not like on the later CBS style jazz basses. Taking a look at the electronics, we can see that it's actually got 2 Damasios. Again, this is quite a common mod in the 70s and 80s. People were starting to experiment with their electronics a little bit. This is when we start to see active preamps and stuff like that coming in. And Damasios are a really common thing to find in basses of the era, certainly 70s jazz basses. And because it's a 70s jazz bass, we can see it's got that further back bridge position, which definitely changes the tone somewhat. It makes it a bit hotter, a bit brighter, maybe a bit barkier. Works really, really well for kind of fretless playing because you get a little bit more enhanced treble response and just sounds really cool. Taking a look at the bridge, you can see that this particular example also has a Badass 2 bass bridge on there. Again, Badass bridges, the originals, were a really common mod during the 70s. We have to think a lot of people were starting to experiment during this period and weren't really thinking of vintage resale value, which is why we see a lot of 70s CBS Fender jazz basses and P basses getting modded. But again, kind of a period correct mod, although I believe this is a Badass 2, so it would be a repro. But again, works really well with this particular bass. Right, because it's not a 60 or a 61 jazz bass, it's moved away from the stack knobs, and you can see it's got the volume, and master tone we'd come to expect from a Fender jazz bass of this era and moving forwards. Works really well, we all know what we're getting. Turning the bass over, we can see that it's got quite a lot of wear on the back, and what that wear reveals to us is probably a 2-piece ash body. Now, ash was quite a common body wood during the 70s. In 71, I believe, Fender moved away from alder and started to move towards ash. I actually believe just as it was easier to source at the time. Now what this does is it definitely gives it a little bit more brightness overall, I feel, but it does definitely increase the weight, which is why we see a lot of 70s jazz and P basses kind of starting to hit the 11-12 pound mark. Now this one feels in the high 10s to me. I haven't actually weighed it, but it's not light. It feels like a 70s jazz bass. There's kind of no getting around it, unfortunately. But you know, it's got a lot of cool wear to it, and I think it looks really nice. You can tell someone's definitely loved playing this bass. Taking a look at the body, I'm hoping that you can see this on camera. It's got some really absolutely stunning checking all over. If I move it over to here as well, hopefully you can see it. And what I imagine is Olympic white has aged to this kind of like really nice vintage custardy yellow and just looks super cool. Now you can see this bass has quite a lot of wear. It's got like a indent here where someone's finger's probably been, or thumb. You can see it's got quite a lot of dents and chips to the horn, but I just think that makes it cooler, frankly. You can tell someone's loved playing this bass, and I can see why. Having played it myself, it's kind of one of those basses you don't really want to put down. It's it just plays itself. It's a weird bass because it's had a ton of work. You can see here it's like had a battery box at some point, which has then been repaired with like a piece of wood. It's got quite a pronounced neck pocket gap, and then someone's tried to shim it on the side. But at the UK Guitar Show this year, this was one of the basses that everyone seemed to gravitate towards. Me, Phil Mann, Joe, all of us were kind of just kept picking it up and going, this is really cool. And yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just, it's got a real vibe to it. You can tell that it's seen some stuff. It's been played hard, and it's all the better for it, to be honest. Now, speaking to Vintage Bass Room, there is some speculation that it could be a 73 neck on a 72 body. They're not 100% sure, and so I'm just saying it's based on the mods that this bass has. There's a good chance that the neck and the body didn't come together from factory, but very cool nonetheless. Right, let's get down to some tones. So there we have it, this very cool potential Bitzer 1973 Fender Jazz bass. Although it's not all original, it is a really, really cool bass. I think one of the things about Fretless is that it can be really inspiring because you don't have those frets, you don't have physical limitations sometimes. Of course, you do have to have correct technique and it can make certain things harder, so slap or playing chords and stuff. You have to have like really, really accurate technique, and you know, it maybe doesn't lend itself as well to chordal playing, but from a soloist piece or doing kind of like ambient or experimental lead lines and stuff like that, I think Fretless is really cool. This bass and tons of others are available on the Vintage Bass Room website, so definitely go and check it out if you're interested. Thanks again to Vintage Bass Room for sending it through. I've had an absolute blast playing it over the last few days. As always, please remember to like and subscribe as it really helps me grow the YouTube channel. And until next time, I've been Matt Parker. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.